And then I have a picture of a female that I just want to show you, just so you could tell me, like, if you were voting, if you thought she was attractive, if you would vote for her to get in or not.
No problem.
So from looking at her, would you vote her?
Yes, I mean, I'd vote her in, yeah, I would. She's a classically beautiful woman. I mean, she's lovely looking. She's beautiful, she's got strong features, and she's got a classically beautiful look about her. Quite refined. Yeah, I'd vote her in.
I just think that not everyone is meant to be a parent, and I think society puts pressure. If a father says he sees his child every 2 weeks or once a month, no one is going to question what kind of father he is. But if a mother says, I only see my kid every 2 weeks, or I had visitations this week with my child, someone is going to wonder, what is wrong with you? I am African-American male. She is a Caucasian female, a school teacher. Now do the math. Do you know what kind of person she would have to be for me to have full custody? Full, not half, full custody. And when Shelby was 3.5, 4, her mother had asked me could she take her to Ireland, where she's from, to go see her grandmother that was ill. A week into her leaving, I went up to Canada where I was working on a film. I was up in Calgary. And I get a phone call from her saying that she took Shelby out to a mall, and her and the lady that was babysitting Shelby had disappeared, and she didn't know where the babysitter and Shelby was. So I had a number of her neighbor. I contacted the neighbor and found out at that point that they had actually planned all this. All this had been planned from the very beginning. That the grandmother wasn't sick, that Shelby wasn't stolen initially. So I got in contact with the Irish authorities that had ordered Shelby and her mother to return back to America through the Hague Convention. My family and I were waiting here at the airport at LAX on a Friday. They had flown in, they changed their tickets, and they flew in on a Thursday under the passports, Catherine and Shelby Cannon. What was unknown to us at the time is that the mother had already gone through a cemetery in Ireland. She had taken names from a graveyard tombstone of 2 different people and assumed their identities. So they flew into America under Cannon and turned around and flew out that very evening under these assumed names. And so that's when I tried to get in contact with the police and the State Department to see if there was something that could be done. And initially, everybody was very supportive. I went in with all the paperwork, showing that I had legal custody of the child. And as I entered, the FBI was like, Mr. Cannon, is there anything we can do? Just let us know. I showed them pictures of Shelby. They were still very excited and gung-ho to help me. Then when they asked me, did I have pictures of the mother? I pulled out pictures of the mother, and so all of a sudden, okay, Mr. Cannon, we'll get back to you on this. I couldn't get anyone in the press to do the story about it. I didn't know if they weren't assisting me because my child was brown, or they weren't assisting me because the abductor was this beautiful Caucasian, stereotypical view of what society feels is beauty. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and I'm sure in their mind, they're thinking she can't be the villain because she doesn't fit the prototype. That's not the image that the media sells. Not too many abductions have been resolved by the help of James Martin. I mean, Pierce Brosnan was instrumental in the finding of my child. There was a law that we had passed back in 2002, and on the anniversary of the law in 2003, Pierce Brosnan appeared at Santa Monica Pier along with the governor at the time, Gray Davis. And so we talked about my daughter being abducted and the fact that, ironically, he's from the same hometown as the abductor, Navan, Ireland. So he came on board, and some pictures of he and I were taken. And there was an Irish reporter, Nicola Talent. She says, I'm going to do the story because wrong is wrong. And she ran the story on the Sunday, October 12th. October 13th, and I received a phone call. It was a woman and was at the airport, and she looks down and she sees this picture of the sexiest man alive. She even tells me over the phone that the reason why she picks up the paper because she thinks Pierce Brosnan is just so damn sexy. She reads, she sees the picture of my child, and she recognizes her as a little girl in her son's class back in Liverpool. That's how my child was recovered. That was not the first article that was ever written about us. There was many articles for 5 years that had been written. I have documentation from people that had spotted Shelby and her mother in different places, but no one came forth because all those pictures consisted of the mother and of myself. And on the beauty scale, she was here and I was here. But then when you get the sexiest man alive, all of a sudden you go here. And then the public reads and looks at the facts. Because this judge was sitting on the bench, 65, 70-year-old judge, and he looks out into the audience, or he looks out into the courtroom, he sees me. He sees the damsel in distress, and he's reading all the charges, and basically says, I get to see my kid 1 hour a week, supervised, while this beautiful abductor who had this child believing she was somebody else, celebrating a dead child's birthday, is allowed to take this child home. She was taken in 1998, October of 98. It is now August 2005. It has been 7 years since I've spent more than 90 minutes with my child alone.